Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Prevail with Justice. I am Geraldine Langford, and today we will be discussing some good things. But before we get into it, and before I tell you what we're talking about, friend, how are you? Check in with yourself. Okay. If you're watching this, let me know in the comments. How are you doing? How are you feeling? I want you to I want you to tell me what your mood is right now. Um, and something that you're working towards. I want to know how you're doing. Me, myself, I am doing pretty good, child. I got a lot of things going on, but we're getting through it, okay? Per usual. So, just like I'm going to get through it, so will you, friend. So, I'm going to go ahead and tell you all what we're talking about today. We are going to talk about how you are responsible for your influence. You're responsible for your influence. We live in a society where everything is about influencership. It's not about leadership. It's not about respect. Well, it is about respect, but it's not really about honor, which was once a thing, but it's about influencership. Influencers is what decides what will be a thing for the most part. I don't think that's 100% true about every single aspect of life. There are people who live differently, but I will say for society, for today's society, and for um, my generation and the generations after us, it's like we're the middle child. Well, really, my generation, we're the middle child, and generation before, I feel like we're the middle children. Like we saw our grandparents do things and our parents do things a certain way. And now that it's our turn, the people who maybe our big cousins, our older siblings, they're caught in the middle. So who God bless the 90s children, especially the middle to latter 90s. God bless us. We need help. We need help out here, okay? So, like I said, everything is about being an influencer and influencing others. And whereas there were once certain pillars of people who were known globally for their impact in a small place or in one place, and it traveled through word of mouth or through the TV screen, we now have phones where there are a bunch of micro influencers who alter the trajectory of things. And so let's get into influencer culture. But I do love seeing people show up for themselves and others. And I want to get to the weight of the role because I don't think that's something that is often spoken about. Of course, if you show up in the hair industry or you're doing hair videos or makeup, after a while, people want to know all of the other things that are pertaining to who you are as a person. They want to know more details about your life. And if people know you in person or if they've seen you on someone else's page or channel or whatever the case. And this is for like people who have gotten bigger. I'm not talking about child us, me. But just in general, people are nosy. People want information, but you are entitled to whatever you are entitled to live your life however you want to. But whatever you put out to the public, it is no longer private. And whatever type of influence you are going to have in society, not just on social media. I'm not talking about, showing up on YouTube or being on TV or anything. This goes for everyday people because you have an influence on any life that you encounter, any path you cross, any place you go, any organization you join. You have an influence, whether you know it or not. And it can be good or it can be bad. So, there is a weight that comes with whatever role you play in life. And I when I woke up and I was thinking about the things that I am working towards and whatever the case, all I could hear was many are called, few are chosen. So of course I knew that was a scripture, but I heard it so much that it was like a quote. So I was like, let me go find out what this means because many are called, but few are chosen. To me, if you're called, you've been chosen. But clearly there's a difference here, right? So I wanted to find out what the difference was. So I looked up the scripture. So I'm going to read y'all um, where this quote came from and the text preceding that one particular scripture. All right, so I am not a preacher, an evangelist, anything pastoral, okay? I'm just a person asking questions and making a connection. So I'm going to read this passage of scripture from the Bible, preceding the scripture about many that are called, the many being called but few chosen. So here we go. Jesus spoke to them again in parables, saying, "The kingdom of heaven may be compared to a king who gave a wedding feast for his son, and he sent his servants to call those who had previously been invited to the wedding feast, but refused to come. Then he sent out for some other servants, saying, 'Tell those who have been invited, look, I have prepared my dinner. My oxen and fattened calves are butchered and everything is ready. Come to the wedding feast.' But they paid no attention. They disregarded the invitation, treating it with contempt, and went away, one to his farm, another to his business. The rest of the invited guests seized his servants and mistreated them, insulting them and humiliating them, and killed them. The king enraged when he heard this. The king was enraged when he heard this and sent his soldiers and destroyed those murderers and burned their city. Rage. Then he said to his servants, 'The wedding feast is ready, but those who were invited were not worthy. So go to the main highways that lead out of the city and invite to the wedding feast as many as you find.' Those servants went out into the streets and gathered together all the people they could find, both good and bad. So the wedding hall was filled with dinner guests sitting at the banquet table. But when the king came in to see the dinner guests, he saw a man there who was not dressed appropriately in wedding clothes. And he said, 'Friend, how did you come in here without wearing the wedding clothes that were provided for you?' And the man was speechless and without excuse. Then the king said to the attendants, 'Tie him hand and foot and throw him into the darkness outside. In that place there will be weeping over sorrow and pain, and grinding of teeth over distress and anger. For many are called, but few are chosen.'" Ooh, child. So, listen, I am not an avid Bible reader. I try, well, unless there's an intention, okay? But when I was reading this, I was like, wow. So basically, he compared this to the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven is open. Everyone is invited, right? All of these people are invited. Most people be like, "Nah, I'm good. Nah, I'm good. Nah, I'm good." And so he sent the servants out to go get people to come to this feast, the kingdom of heaven. All right. He sent them out to come to this feast and provided them with clothes. So the people that did show up already had clothes to wear. All they had to do was show up. But that one man came without his clothes. Like, "Sir, you are misrepresented here. What are you doing? I gave you the clothes. Why didn't you wear them?" He had nothing to say. He was thrown out. So although many may be invited, only the ones who have a calling, only the ones who pay attention, only the ones who follow suit, those are chosen. Those are chosen. So although many may be summoned, many people may be called or told to, "Hey, I want you to do this. I want you to complete this assignment. I want you to touch this group of people. I want you to lead this flock. I want you to go and mentor these people over here." Everybody is not going to answer the call. Everybody is not going to answer the call. But when you do answer the call, follow suit. Be responsible with it. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. All right. And if you answered the call, you were chosen. Okay. You picked this. Okay. You picked this. You decided, hello? Okay. All right. I got to do it. Follow suit with it. Follow suit with it. Stay the course. And as I'm saying this to you all, I'm saying it to myself as well, because consistency is something that I struggle with. Um I know for a fact that I was called to do this. I was called to follow this path. For what reason? I don't know, but I'm showing up. I'm here. and I'm going to wear the crown. And I know that to whom much is given, much is required. And this is something that is required of me. The way that I carry myself, that's something that is required of me. And that's my brand. The way that I market myself or position myself in life. And I say all that to say that many are called, few are chosen. And when you accept that invitation, you got to be, you got to pay attention. The man who was invited and was given a suit to wear, but he did not wear it and he didn't have an excuse, he abused his influence. And though he was called, he wasn't chosen. He wasn't chosen. He misused what was given to him. So when I say all that to say, when you're called to a role, to a position, to a place, to a room, to a group of people, don't abuse your influence. Don't abuse it. You are a brand. Okay, you are a brand. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't have fun or be human. It just means to be aware of what you put out and be intentional with it on a public space. So, if you like to turn up with your friends on the back end, but in the front, you called to mentor these kids, don't be putting you being out with your friends all over social media. That's going to be very confusing and very misleading. That doesn't mean that you can't do that or that you have to act as if you don't. You just don't have to share that with everybody. You don't have to share that with everybody. Everything is not everybody's business. I'm going to say that again. Everything is not everybody's business. It's not. Some things are for you and for your life in real life. If somebody, if you out with your friends, y'all getting drinks and y'all having a good time, and somebody that you may be mentor or coach or something like that, they see you outside of your work clothes, okay, that's fine. You in real life, but that don't mean that this lifestyle that you have from time to time or whatever the case has to be broadcasted to everybody. All right. So that sounds like, oh, I have to be this, and that. No, I'm literally just saying to be intentional with the way that you present whatever it is that your calling is. Having boundaries with what you share about yourself. Everything is not everybody's business. Just because people start paying attention to this one thing don't mean you got to share everything. It doesn't. Everything is not everybody's business. And so another point is that growing up, my parents always taught me that once you walk outside of the house, you are a representation of the household that you come from, everyone in it, the organizations that you are a part of, as well as the people that you are deeply connected to. Everything is association. And if one is guilty, you probably are too. Birds of a feather flock together. I know you done heard that before, and it's very true. So even if something is not what it looks like, the look is all people know. People don't ask questions anymore. And even when they did, they didn't ask the right ones. They're not going to ask them questions. So if it looks like a certain thing, that's what people are going to perceive it as. If you look a certain way, that's what people are going to perceive you as. So I say all of that to say, when you are granted an opportunity, don't abuse it by being careless. Don't do that. Don't do that. There are consequences for absolutely everything. And it can be good consequences or it can be a bad consequence. You get to choose that. You get to choose that. And an example that I will never forget, it seems so small, right? So, and I'm probably going to butcher the story, so whatever. But the principle is still the same. Um, there was someone who went to a game and they got into a fight at this game over something so small. They got in a fight and they was like, I don't care. Like I'm finna. They was like, I don't care if Obama's in this crowd. This person finna get beat down. Okay. Um. So they got in a fight, and then after that, there were some people around, and they just weren't caring. The following Monday, that person had an interview that was in the fight, and one of the people that witnessed the fight was the interviewee, was the interviewer for that job position. Do you think that person got the job? Did not. Did not, because you have to be careful of how you present yourself. You never know who's watching. And I don't say that to scare you. I say that once again to emphasize, to be intentional and aware of what you put out in the way that you carry yourself. Whatever you want your brand to be, whatever you want your legacy to be, go out and present yourself as that. And be you. Be you. I'm not telling you to be somebody else. I'm not telling you to be a fictional character or to hide certain aspects of yourself. It's just to know what's appropriate and when. So I'm about to wrap up, and I want you to take away with you that number one, heavy is the head that wears the crown. The crown is a representation of what you were chosen to do. Heavy is the head. So be intentional with what you do. That's number two. Be intentional with how you move, the way you carry yourself, the way you present yourself, the way you interact with people, all of those things. Be mindful. Number three, live your life in a fishbowl. You ever went to an aquarium and everybody can see the fish, but the fish may not be paying no attention to the people, but the people still see the fish? Literally like that on a day-to-day basis. Don't wait until you've gotten to the place that you're going to start acting like you're there. Do it now. It's not faking it. It's practice. It's practice. If you've already been called to this thing, carry yourself as such. You never know when your suddenly will be. Your suddenly could be today. Your suddenly could be tomorrow. You never know. You never know when it is. So